Hello friends, you're welcome to Queen's Fashion World channel today with me. So today I'll be teaching how to cut and sew a madam blouse, Nigeria madam blouse, Rivers State method. How Rivers people cut their blouse and sew their blouse because of their wrapper. So I'll be teaching you the best and perfect method to cut this blouse today. Stay with me. I have a lace material here with me. I have 1.5 yard of lace. Then I have bridle, 1.5 yard. I have a cotton lining. This cotton lining is by 45, is 1.5 yard. If it were by 60, 1 yard would have been okay for me for this blouse. So for the sake of this tutorial, I will keep all this one aside and draft with a pattern paper. I'll draft on this paper so that you will see it clearly. Normally we use a bridle to cut before we place on the lace to cut it, but for you to see it clearly, I will draft on the paper first. So I have a measurement to show you. I measure from shoulder to bust point 11 inches, shoulder to under bust length 14 inches, shoulder to half length 17 inches, full length of the blouse 26 inches, shoulder 16 inches, nipple to nipple, or you call it bust span 8 inches, bust circumference 42 inches, under bust circumference 35 inches, half length circumference 37 inches, hip circumference 46 inches. These are the measurements I'll be using to cut this blouse today. So this is my paper here with me. This one is the back panel, and this is a zipper allowance. So for you to know the size of fabric to fold or the size of paper to fold, when you mark the zipper allowance like this, you can hold it like this and check the measurements of the person. Then you add 3 inches, 2.5 inches to it. 3 inches is better. And you use the biggest measurement of this blouse now is the hip circumference. So you check the hip circumference and you add a sewing allowance to it. So after that, you can now place this one now and check and add extra to the front, like extra 4 inches, 5 inches for the front to be bigger than the back. So that is how you fold your fabric or your paper. Now let me keep this back aside. I'll work with the front first. Now this line you're seeing here is my starting point. All the measurements will start from this point now. So I'll place my tape. This is my normal way. I'll mark the length from shoulder to bust point is from shoulder to bust point is 11 inches. I will mark 11.5 inches, half inch to join the upper part. Then I will go ahead and mark the same thing this way, 11.5 inches. So I will measure again from shoulder to under bust length is 14 inches. I will mark 14.5 inches, half inch to join the upper part. I will go down from shoulder to half length is 17 inches. I will mark 17.5 inches. I will go down from shoulder to the full length is 26 inches. I will mark 26 inches, and I will also add 2 inches sewing allowance to hem the down and to join the upper part. So let me also mark this way also 14 inches, 14.5, 17.5, 26 and 2 inches hemming at the down. So I'll go ahead and connect these lines together now. So these are my lines now. Bust point, under bust point, half length, and the full length, and the hemming line. The next place I will be marking now is the neck. Now the neck of this blouse is going to be a round neck. So the width of the neck is 3.5 inches. This person will not want the neck to be too open, so I'm using 3.5 inches. If someone that the neck that would like an open neck, you can make it 4 inches. Sometimes I even use 4.5, depends the person and the kind of neck. So the neck depth, I will use 5 inches for the neck depth, and I will also mark the 3.5 this way and connect a straight line to the neck like this. I'll connect the neck like this. The next place I will mark again how to get the round neck. I'll shoot out a 1-inch arrow or 3/4. Let me use 3/4 because the neck is not too big. The neck is not too wide, so let me use 3/4 of an inch. You can use a 1 inch. If it's 2.5 width, you can use a 1/2 inch. So from this point now is where to carve my hand. I can use a dotted line like so to carve my round icing. For beginners, this arrow here is to guide you how to form your round. If you use a ruler to still be okay, icing. So the next place I'll be marking again is the shoulder. The shoulder measurement is 16 inches, and 16 divided by 2, the shoulder is always divided by 2. That will give me 8 inches. But because of bustier, normally I would have added a 1/2 inch to it for joining of the sleeve. But because of bustier, I'm going to use 9 inches for the shoulder measurement. 9 inches. And from this 9 inches, I will mark my shoulder slope 1 inch as shoulder slope. Then I will connect from the shoulder slope to the neck point. I see now. Then the next place I will mark again is the armhole. So you divide your bust measurement by 6, and bust measurement here is 42. So divided by 6, that will give me 7 inches. 7 inches, I will add 1.5 inches to it. So I will use 8.5 to be my armhole line. So let me mark the 8.5 like this. This is 8.5. So I will connect the 8.5 like so. Automatically this line has become the chest line now. So from this point, the same 9 inches that I marked here, I will also mark the same 9 inches here and connect it together to the upper part like so. Now how to get the armhole shape, the armhole round, I will also shoot out a 1-inch arrow. From this point, I will shoot out a 1-inch arrow. Then I will use my curve ruler to connect the armhole shape like this. You can use a dotted line to connect it. This 1-inch arrow is to guide you. Now the next place I will mark again is the armhole shape, because this is the front of the blouse. So I'm not going to leave it straight like this. I'll find a midpoint for this armhole. The midpoint, the armhole line is 8.5 inches. 8.5 inches divided by 2, that will give me 4 1/4. I'll mark my 4 1/4. Then from that 4 1/4, I will go in by 1/2 inch. From that 1/2 inch, I will use a dotted line to connect my hand to this point, and also connect my hand from that point to blend to this armhole area. So this one now is a armhole in front, the shape of front armhole. Now you take away 1/2 inch from it for you to have a nice shape. The next place I'll be marking is the center dart, the bustier. So I just indicate my lines now. This is the bust length, under bust length, half length, and the full length at the down part. You can call it hip length, it's still okay. Before I forget, let me explain something for beginners. In case you're cutting this madam blouse, whatever you're cutting on a fabric, you have to fold your fabric into two like this. Are you seeing? The front line, the front panel should not have a joining, except you want to add a zipper in front, then you can add joining. But because it's a paper, I'm using a single paper to cut it. But when I transfer to fabric, I'm going to fold it. So I hope it's clear now. Now, how to mark the dart? The nipple to nipple is what I will use to mark the bustier now. So the nipple to nipple is 8 inches. Because it's princess dart, because it's princess bustier, so I will add a 1 inch to it. That will be 9 inches. That is, nipple to nipple is 8 inches. So if you divide it by 2, it will give me 4 inches. Then I add ½ inch to it. That will give me 4.5, which is the 9 inches. So from the under bust, I'm going to mark my 4.5 inches like this. That ½ inch is to sew the princess dart. Then from the bust line, I'm going to mark my 4.5. From the under bust, I will still mark my 4.5 inches like this. Then I will connect it together like so. This lace is 4.5 inches. This is the full length, or you can call it hip length. I'm not going to use 4.5 inches. I'm going to add a 1 inch to it. So that will give me 5.5 inches. So I will go ahead and mark 5.5 inches like this. And I will connect the line from this 4.5 inches like. Now how to mark the center bustier. This under bust, I will go in by 1 inch. 1 inch like this. From this line. But from the half length, I will go in by ½ inch, not 1 inch. This place is 1 inch, here is ½ inch. Are you seeing now? So I'm going to connect this 1 inch to this ½ inch, like so. So from the hip length now, I will come up by 2 inches. 2 inches like so. Then I will connect my marker from this ½ inch. So let me explain something. The reason why here I marked 1 inch and ½ inch here, and here I did not remove anything at all, is because of the shape. You see the under bust is smaller than the half length circumference. Are you seeing now? And the hip is there, which is bigger than the half length circumference. So I don't use the same this thing. You have to make the blouse to have this shape to accommodate the body. Just follow the body shape like so. So that is the reason why here is 1 inch, ½ inch, and here nothing. I didn't remove anything from here. And this part of the world where I am, River State women, when you're making a blouse for them, because they like big wrappers, they like to tie, most of them have a big waist. So you have to make this side, this downside, to be open like this to accommodate their waist and their wrapper. So you don't make it straight this way. That is why this shape is like this. So having said that, now how to connect the upper part. From this bust point, I will come down by 1 inch. Like so, 1 inch. Then I will go up from the bust line by 1 inch, like this. Then I will also mark this 4.5, extend this line up to this 1 inch, like this. So how to connect the bustier, the center bustier, from this under bust line, I will curve my hand like this to meet with this 1 inch. I see now. To meet with this 1 inch and blend it, extend it up to this 1 inch at the upper part. So this is the shape now. Now the next place I will mark again is the upper part, the armhole, princess dart. So from the shoulder, I will go down by 1 inch. I just mark 1 inch from the shoulder point like this. Now I will look for a way to connect my hand from this point now, this 1 inch at the upper bust now, to this shoulder line. So I can use a dotted line to curve my hand. Let me shift the paper so that I will, or let me put it this way. I will do it this way. From this point, I will just curve my hand like this to meet with this point now. Are you seeing the shape? As a fashion designer or a tailor, you need to learn how to use your eye to check something. When you check and know that it's okay, you now blend it well. If you check and you think it's not okay, you can also shape it again. So what I'm seeing here is okay for me. It's beautiful. Now I have a standard that I always use for bustier. Whenever I'm cutting a bustier blouse or top, whatever, this is the standard which I always use. Whenever I talk about the bustier, big size or small size, medium size, I'm not talking about the person's body, because there are some persons that are very slim but they have a big bust, and there are some persons that are big but they have a small bust. So you have to check the size of the person's breast. Let me put it like that. So the size of the breast is what I'm trying to curve here. Now I have number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4 here. This number 1 is the smallest. You see some persons that the breast is very small, so you have to use this size. The number 2 and number 3. If you are using for someone that is this number 1, this part now that I want to mark from the under bust here, I will advise you to take 2 inches from this part. If you are using it for someone that has this number 2 size, I will advise you to use 2 1/4 of an inch. If you are using it for someone that has this number 3, which is my size, you use 2 1/2 inches to carve the side bustier. If you're using it for this bigger one, the person's breast is very big, then you can use a 3 inches or 2 3/4, bigger than 2 1/2, 2 3/4 or 3 inches. But for this person now, I want to use 2 1/2 inches for this person. So I will mark 2 1/2 inches like this for under bust. Then from the half length, I will also mark the same 2 1/2 inches like this. And I will connect this line together like this. Please permit me to turn this paper so that I can curve my hand very well. This is the 1 inch point I'm going to meet. So you curve your hand from this point to meet with this 1 inch like this, and you also connect it up to this 1 inch so that the bustier will be able to accommodate the body very well. So let me turn it back again. Now are you seeing the shape? So how to mark the bustier and the upper part? I will come down from this 1 inch that I marked this princess dart. Now I will come down by, you can use for a smaller person, you can use a 1 1/2 inches. I can use 2 inches for this person. So I will turn this paper again, please. From these 2 inches now, I will connect my hand. I'm using a dotted line. As you're placing your marker, you're checking. Are you seeing the shape now? To meet with this, let me blend it well. To meet with this 1 inch now, 2 inches from this princess dart, 2 inches. I'm using to mark this bustier by the side. Now I haven't done that. I'm going to extend this princess dart by 2 inches. This same 2 inches that I marked here, extend it by 2 inches up to this point. Now this is the 2 inches. If it's 1 1/2 that you remove here, add the 1 1/2 back. So from this point now, I will now create another new armhole. Are you seeing now? So the side will carry this armhole while the upper part will carry this armhole. For the sake of this tutorial, I am trying to follow the due process. So I need to extend this line now to the down part. So I will just place my ruler like this and extend this line to the down. That is to the hip length or the full length. So now I'm going to add my measurements. The bust circumference is 42 inches. 42 inches divided by 4, that will give me 10.5 inches. So I'll go ahead and mark my 10.5 inches this way. Then I will add my sewing allowance 2.5 inches to it. Now this part now, much thing will not be taken away from this part, but I can still add like 1 inch to it because it's pattern. Let me just add 1 inch to it. Now the under bust circumference is 35 inches. 35 inches divided by 4, that will give me 8 3/4. I will mark my 8 3/4 here. Then I will add 2.5 inches for sewing allowance. Then I will check this under bust. What we'll be losing here for the bustier is 3.5 inches. I will go ahead and replace it back, the 3.5 inches like so. Then the half length circumference is 37 inches. So 37 inches divided by 4, that will give me 9 1/4. I'll mark my 9 1/4. Then I will add 2.5 inches for sewing allowance. Then I will check what we'll be losing here is 3 1/4 from this half length. 3 1/4, I will replace it back like this. Now for the hip circumference is 46. So I will go ahead, 46 divided by 4, that will give me 11.5 inches. I will mark my 11.5 inches like this. Then I will add 2.5 inches for sewing allowance. Then I will check what we'll be losing at this down part is 2 inches. I will replace it back 2 inches. Now I will look for a way to connect these lines together like this, from the hip to this half length. Then I will connect my hand from the half length to the under bust. Now I will connect my hand from the under bust to this bust line like this, and I will extend it to the chest line. Now most time I don't use this chest line measurement if I'm making a dress, because the chest line is always smaller than the bust with like 1.5 or 2 inches, depends the shape of the person. But most time if you leave it, it helps the armhole, it helps the sleeve and the armhole to balance well for the person to lift up hands freely. So most time I don't, and my dresses always fit well. But if you don't like this look you're seeing here, because of the shape here that will be taken in and this side, so that is why the shape is like this, you can use your hand to just make it like this. Then when closing the dress, you will not reduce it. But this place is okay for me. When I sew in all of this one, it will balance. Now I will extend this line to the down part like this. Another thing I will be showing you, if you're making this blouse for someone that has a very big waist, and like this tribe I mentioned, Rivers people, Bayelsa, all these riverine people that like to tie big wrapper on their waist, you can also increase this line by 1 inch. You can increase this shape by 1 inch like this. So I will blend it back to this point. Let me use my free hand so that I can connect it properly. Some tribe that tie big wrapper on their waist, so they like their blouse to be free at the down, so that they will tie wrapper inside for the blouse to balance on top of their hip, so you can extend this by 1 inch. But if you're making it for the tribe that they don't like tying big wrapper, you use the normal hip measurement. The next place I will be marking again is the shape of the blouse. You don't leave it down straight like this. We'll always slant the blouse. You can use 2 inches, you can use 1.5 inches. So let me use 2 inches to slant this blouse down like this, 2 inches. You can use 2 inches, you can use 1.5 inches. I'm going to slant it this way to connect it back. You can blend it properly. Connect it back to the princess dart line. You take away 2 inches by the side. So now I'm through with the front. I want to cut it out. Let me start from the neck. I like starting from this point. Then I will cut the shoulder slope like so. Let me turn the paper this way. So this is the princess dart. This is the center front now that I'm folding from that 1 inch. Like so. Now there is something I normally do. I always notch my under bust like this, so that when I'm adding part to it, I won't stress myself. Let me blend this area very well. Okay, it's better now. So this is my front head. So how to cut the back of the blouse now. This line you're seeing here is the zipper allowance, normal 1.5 inches for the zipper allowance. And this upper line here is the starting point. All my measurement will start from this point. All my measurement will start from here to down. So from the shoulder line, this bust point 11.5 inches, under bust line 14.5. This third line here is the half length line 17.5. Then I have the full length of the blouse 26 inches and 2 inches for hemming at the down. Now this blouse length, normal blouse length, we say is 25, but depends the person. You can't just say assume 25. There are some persons that their blouse length is up to 28. I've seen 30 inches and even 32 inches. So always take the person's measurement. Now I just add some paper to this side because my paper is I don't have enough paper, so I just join this paper a little here. So for me to mark the back now, I will start from the neck. The neck width is 3.5 inches, the same 3.5 inches that we use at the upper part. I'll go ahead and mark 3.5 inches. Then the depth, I will use 1.5 inches. It's high neck, so I can use a dotted line. Just connect my hand like this from that 1.5 to this, to the neck width, like so. Then I will extend it to the zipper allowance. If you want to use the same measurement for the neck, the front and back, then you just use the front to cut the neck. The next place I will mark again is the shoulder. The shoulder divided by 2 is 16 inches divided by 2, that is 8 inches. Then I will add 1 inch to it. From that zipper allowance, you just add the 9 inches like this, the same 9 inches that we use in front. Then I will mark my shoulder slope, the same 1 inch for the shoulder slope. I'll go ahead and connect it together like this. Then from the shoulder slope, my armhole, we use a 8.5 in front. So I will go ahead and mark my 8.5 like this. Then I will rule a straight line. This is the chest line now. Then the armhole measurement, the same 9 inches. I will mark the same 9 inches here at this point. Then I will connect it to the upper part like this, to the upper part. So this is the armhole line now. Now for me to get the armhole shape, I'm going to shoot out a 1-inch arrow. 1-inch arrow, just to guide me. You can use your ruler, you can use your free hand, and connect the armhole shape. Now the front armhole, we took away 1/2 inch from the front armhole, but the back armhole, you leave it like this. You don't remove anything from the back armhole. The next place I will mark now is the princess dart at the back. I will also use the nipple to nipple for the princess dart. The nipple to nipple is 8 inches divided by 2. That will give me 4 inches. 4 inches, I will add 1/2 inch for sewing allowance to it. So I will be using a 4.5. From that zipper allowance, I will mark my 4.5 like this. This is the under bust. From the half length line, I will mark my 4.5 like this. From the bust line, I will also mark my 4.5. Then I will connect it together like this. I'll connect it like so. How to mark the down princess cut. Now, because of the blouse shape, the way the shape is, the same thing that we did in front, I'm going to use a 4.5 inches. I will add a 1 inch to it, so I will use a 5.5 inches. The same thing I explained in front. So I will connect my line like this, from this half length to the hip length, and I will extend it to the hemming line like so. So from this princess line, now I will mark 1/2 inch here, and the center I will mark 1/2 inch, and the side I will mark 1/2 inch. That is from the half length. From under bust also, I will mark 1/2 inch this way, and also mark 1/2 inch this way. Now I will connect it together from the half length to the under bust like this, and also connect the side together like so. You have to connect it to this bust line, because bust is not there, so you can connect your dart to the bust line like so. I see now. Then you find a way to connect this one also to the bust line. So this is the dart now. Now the next place now is to connect it to the down part. From the hip line, I will come up by 2 inches like so. 2 inches. So from this half length, I'll find a way to connect my dart now. I see now, and blend it to the hip line like this. Then from this side, I will also connect my hand like so, from the half length, and blend it to the hip length like this. So this is the shape. When you're making a blouse for this set of people, the riverine people, you have to make the blouse a shape like this. So the princess dart at the upper part. Now from the shoulder slope, I will come down by 1 inch, the same 1 inch that we use in front. So I will look for a way to connect from this bust point to this dart area. I can use a dotted line. I use a dotted line as I'm marking and checking with my eyes, and I think this one is okay. It's a good one. So I will find a way to blend it very well. So this is my princess line now. I can increase it by 1 inch or 1/2 inch. Because of the princess cut here, when you sew, you find out that it will not size this place. But I've already added 1 inch to the upper part. I will just increase it by 1 inch like so. So I will extend the princess dart line like this, 1 inch. So from this 1 inch, I will connect it back to the armhole area, so that I will not have shortage. So this is the new armhole now at the back. All of this, when I finish this blouse, I'll still check my armhole again. When I finish the blouse, I finish sewing the blouse. Now from the, I haven't done that. The next place I'll be marking is the bust. The bust circumference is 42 divided by 4. That will give me 10.5 inches. I will mark my 10.5. Then I will add my 2.5 inches sewing allowance, 2.5 inches. Then the under bust is 35 divided by 4. That will give me 8 3/4. I will mark 8 3/4. Then I will add my 2.5 inches sewing allowance. Then I will check the dart area. I will be losing 1 inch for the dart, so I will replace it back 1 inch. I will also come for the half length circumference. The half length circumference is 37 divided by 4. That will give me 9 1/4. I will mark my 9 1/4 like this. Then I will add my sewing allowance to it. Then I will check the dart. Will be losing 1 inch. I will replace it back 1 inch like this. Then the hip circumference is 46 divided by 4. That will give me 11.5 inches. I will go ahead and mark 11.5 inches. Then I will add 2.5 inches sewing allowance to it. So this hip line now, the dart is not taking away anything. So the 2.5 inches sewing allowance is okay. Now if you're making this blouse for someone that like tying big wrapper, the same thing we did in front, but let me connect these lines together first so that you understand it for beginner's sake. I will extend it to the down part and connect all the lines together like so. This is the bust line and up to the chest line like this. Now if you're making this blouse for someone that like tying big waist, that like tying big wrapper, you can extend this hip line by 1 inch. Just connect it like this. Let me use free hand. Connect it like so. And another place I will mark again is the down. I will go in by 2 inches to slant the down. The same thing we did in front. Just connect it together and blend it in before the princess dart line. Blend it in like so. So the next place I will be marking now is the zipper board. I call it zip shape. You know, the back is not straight, the shoulder is there and the middle is low. We have the hip there, so you have to take away something here. So from the shoulder line to where I will start marking, for this person I will use 9 inches. There are some persons that are not too tall. I use 8 inches. So from that point now is where my shape will start from. From the hip length, I will come up by 2 inches like this. To take away the zipper board now, I will mark ½ inch. I'll just go in by ½ inch like so. ½ inch like this. Up to this point, ½ inch. Up to the 9 inches, ½ inch. Now I will connect these lines together like this. This ½ inch like this to the 9 inches. I will connect it like so. Then I will find a way to blend it to the down part. I'll bring my hand out, just blend it like this. Then I will look for a way to blend it to the upper part. I won't just stop here. You have to blend it so that it will smooth very well. You blend it to the neckline now. So this is how I take away excess at the back. Now I'm to cut it out now. I cut from the neck first, then the shoulder slope. I will cut the center back first like this. Then I will notch the zipper allowance. I like notching it like so. The next place I will cut again the side armhole. the back princess cut now for the blouse. You see how beautiful it is. So the next thing I will do, I'm going to transfer this pattern now, both front and back, to this bridal lace lining. Then I will come back again. So I just finished transferring the pattern now to the lace and also to the lining. See what I have here. This is the lining. I have a 3 material here. The lining, because blouse is always double lining, and this is the bridal satin, the doll face bridal, and this is the lace material. This is the side, and the same thing to the front, the lace, the bridal, and the lining. So each of these patterns that I cut will have these pieces, three of it, lace, bridal, and lining. The same thing to the back. Then we'll start the sewing. Thank you so very much for watching. Please, I want you to like and also comment on this blouse. I want to see your comments. And if today is your first time of tuning this channel, you are welcome. Please do well to hit the subscription button and also turn on the bell by the side to get notification whenever I upload a new video. Thank you so very much for watching.